Hi Fives, I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're staying safe. Thank you for all the lovely work that you're putting up on Purple Mash. I really enjoy looking at it, and especially all of you that are tormenting me with all the lovely food that you're making. I'm expecting lots of that when you come back to school. Yes, well done, Megan. You guessed that it was the brown tail moth, and yes, we are supposed to remove them, which is what we did. They can cause an irritant, but well done for all of you that had a chance to say what you thought it was. Still keep looking around because there are some really unusual butterflies around at the moment. I spotted a white one with orange tipped wings, so look out for them and keep a note of them and look up. And I know that Spring Watch, I know it's not spring at the moment, but that television program, they are always interested in what new things and not new butterflies you find around. So please keep a note of them, then you can let them know. I'm going to read not probably the whole chapter because otherwise you'll probably fall asleep at the end, but we are coming to the end, as you can see, of Cosmic from Frank Cottrell-Boyce and the Macmillan Publishing, PanMacmillan Publishing. Thank you so much for allowing us to read this and post it onto our website. So I hope you enjoy listening to this one. This is called Last Chance to Vote. And if you remember, they'd all gone through the desert on their task, hadn't they, to see who was the best one, who should lead. So here we go. The penultima is called the penultima because it's the next best thing to being in space. On the outside, it looks like any other simulator, but bigger. When you walk inside, though, you are standing in the biggest, best flight simulator ever built. It's a full-size replica of the Infinite Possibility command module, 5 seats, multifunctional displays, even a PlayStation 3 for the boring bits of the voyage. You can tell they think it's going to be a major attraction because it's right in the middle of the Infinity Dome and the queuing lane is about a mile long. How much did Florida love strolling past the queue takes 45 minutes from here sign? It's like this for a lot of celebrities, she said. I read that they opened Chessington World of Adventures early once, especially for Brad Pitt and his kids. We spent the morning on the penultima, learning how to guide a rocket through re-entry, of course, said Dr. Trax. On the big day, all that will be taken care of by those clever people over at Drax Control. But we want you to learn how to do it, just in case. There was a monitor shaped like a window. You could see the Earth with clouds and seas rolling across its big curvy face. As the Earth got bigger, you could just make out the glowing border of space and the atmosphere. Mr. Bean showed us what to do. Think of that glow, he said, as the flap of an envelope. Just slip under the flap and you're on your way home. It's as simple as that. It's all about the angle. Max, you're first. Max stepped up to the control panel and tried to steer us in. There was a kind of arrow on the screen to show you that angle. What you had to do was keep the front of the module lined up with it. Max would probably have been all right if his dad hadn't been standing behind him saying, "Steady, Max, steady," over and over. The more he said it, the less steady Max got until suddenly, just as the glow was getting clearer, everything changed. The Earth spun around, continents and oceans whirled into each other, then the entire planet completely vanished and everything was black. Now, you see what's happened here, said Dr. Drax, is that Max didn't get the angle just right. I told you to watch the angle, snarled Max. Why didn't you watch the angle? And as a result, said Dr. Drax, the rocket has bounced off Earth's atmosphere, a bit like when you skim a stone off the surface of the sea. My father, by the way, was rather wonderful at skimming stones. His record was 20 bounces. Through the window there was nothing but blackness, punctuated by stars as we rocketed further and further into space. Florida said, "Can't we reverse?" "Not now, we're drifting out of control." "But we'll stop in the end. Everything stops in the end." "Not in space. In space you just drift on forever." "Yes," agreed Samson too. "It's Newton's first law of motion, I'm afraid. Unless an external force is applied, a body will remain at rest or will continue to move at a constant velocity forever." "So," said Florida, "if we bounce off the atmosphere on the day, what do we do?" "Hold on tight and enjoy the ride," Dr. Drax smiled. "But don't worry, it won't happen. Show them, Senjin." Dr. Drax reset the simulator and Senjin took the controls. As we got nearer to the Earth, she read out all the changes in gravity from the monitors. "She's doing that just so that we down on the ground can hear that she's awake," said Mr. Bean. "A lot of people pass out during re-entry. Also, it's hard to move your hands. You've just got to weighing nothing, then ping! You weigh a ton." The blue seas and the white clouds looked so friendly and familiar, and then they were gone. The screen was filled with a blazing golden fire. "We're dead again!" yelled Samson too. Senjin didn't even blink. "Or perhaps the machine is malfunctioning." Senjin just kept saying the numbers. Mr. Bean said, "We're not dead. It's not a malfunction. That glow is just us slamming into the atmosphere. We're moving so fast, all the little atoms on the outside of the rocket are shedding their electrons. It's a pretty thing, isn't it? Of course, you'll have no time to appreciate it when it's actually happening." Senjin shouted, "Gravity 5 and rising." Samson too said, "That means she's back inside the atmosphere." "On your way home, Skylark," smiled Mr. Bean. "Mother Earth is holding your hand. Just don't let her drop you." And the golden glow flew away like wrapping paper, leaving the blue Earth looking as new as a present. All of the children had a go at the re-entry procedure. It made my fingers itch just watching them, because the fact is, the penultima, the world's most accurate rocket simulator, is just a big version of Orbiter 4, a game at which I'm a consistent high scorer. Even the control panel layout is the same. Re-entry is a task you have to master to get past level 7 on Orbiter 4. I was twitching to play, but the other dads didn't seem to be paying any attention at all. Monsieur Martinet said that watching the others reminded him of driving lessons, and the next thing they were all going on about cars. Monsieur Martinet said he drove a Mercedes, and Mr. Xanadu said he had some Mercedes too for midweek, you know. Samson 1 said he preferred Land Rovers because of living in the desert, and they all started on about four-wheel drive. They talked about cars as though they were playing top trumps. Sometimes they made me feel like I was the only grown-up there. What about you, Mr. Digby? What do you drive?" "A car." But what kind?" "A blue one." I was trying to concentrate on the penultima. "I don't know much about cars." "But you drive for a living. Surely you have to know about cars." I'd forgotten about being a taxi driver. I said, "It's more about knowing your way around town, really. The car's just tools of the trade, really." I remembered what Dad had said about taxi driving. Taxi driving is about people, not about cars. You have to be a bit of a psychologist, a bit of a tourist guide, a little bit of everything. I don't really have time to be interested in cars. I even delivered a baby once. I think probably the baby thing was going a bit far, though Dad did sort of deliver a baby once. Everyone stared at me like they were going to ask me to prove it by delivering another baby right now. Luckily, Mr. Bean told Monsieur Martinet it was his turn at the controls. Monsieur Martinet slipped inside the golden envelope, just as neatly as St. did. He crossed his arms and said, "Child's play." Then the screen went black and the simulator said, "Permanent fatal errors. Uh-oh, you are dead." "I don't think so," he snapped. "Not quite yet," said Dr. Drax with a smile, "but in a very few seconds you forgot to open your parachutes." Next up was Samson 1, who bounced off the atmosphere and into outer space. It didn't bother him. He seemed to quite like the idea of accelerating until you turned into a beam of light. Mr. Xanadu seemed more interested in trying to buy the penultima than he was in steering it. "Such a great machine. If you sell it to me, I will add fighting monsters and lightly clad female aliens to the simulation. It will be popular and profitable." "The simulator is part of our training program," said Dr. Drax. "Fighting monsters is not one of our training objectives." "But with a little work," said Eddie Xanadu, "this could make your fortune." "I already have a fortune, but thank you for your suggestion." As she said this, he hit Earth's atmosphere hard in a kind of interplanetary belly flop and burst into flames. "Marvellous graphics," he said. "Please take a picture of me at the controls like a true taikonaut." He gave me his phone and got the children to pose and smile with him. Then it was my turn. I don't want to brag about this, but I have completed Orbiter 4 level 50, when you have to do re-entry while being chased by a giant squid, so it really isn't hard. Even so, Dr. Drax was impressed. "Would you mind doing it again just to make sure that wasn't beginner's luck?" This time they tried to trap me. An unexpected meteor shower went by during the final approach. Luckily, this is a standard Orbiter 4 trap. You just have to remember that meteors have a gravitational pull of their own and correct your coordinates accordingly. If you don't, you get pulled off course. I was in the golden envelope for a second time. Afterwards, during the voting, Samson 2 asked me why I was so good at the penultima. I said, "Don't tell anyone, but I've got a PlayStation game just like this." "You play PlayStation?" said Samson 2. "A bit. I prefer massively multiplayer online games like World of Warcraft. Those are usually activities for a dad," said Samson 2. "But it turns out they're good activities for a taikonaut." Samson 2 smiled, nodded his head, and then went off and started whispering to the others. Then all the children went off to vote. I knew I was going to win. I was the only one who would be able to save them in an emergency. I did the maths in my head. Eddie and me were both on 6. That meant if I got 3, I'd definitely won. But I could still win even if I only got 2, as long as the other 2 votes didn't both go to Eddie. When Dr. Drax came back in with the results, my heart was popping with excitement. The children have decided to